in your headlines tonight. Diplomatic sore spot. Government maintains Brigadier Priyanka Fernando's diplomatic status. Border expansion. Port city landmass officially added to Sri Lanka. One over neighbours. Sri Lanka goes past India on the track after 28 years. Crowning glory in Las Vegas. A Sri Lankan crowned Mrs. World for the first time in 35 years.
Mrs. World 2020, take your...
All this and much more coming up tonight on First at 9, this Saturday, the 7th of December 2019.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9.
මේ සීන් එකෙන් කට් වෙන්න ඇන්ටිජර් මවුත් වොෂ් සමගින් එන ක්ලෝස් අප් ජෙල් එක ස්ටෝරි එක ස්ටාර්ට් කරන්න.
Hi.
Hi.
Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
A very good evening and a warm welcome. This is First at 9, AdaDerana English News Service, and I'm Derana. Sri Lanka today ended a 28-year wait, punching well above their weight to overtake India on the track at the South Asian Games. Sri Lanka bettered the neighbours' gold medal tally of 13 by 2 more, pushing India to second place on track events. The last time Sri Lanka managed the feat was back in 1991, and given the fact India has a superior pool of talent to choose from, the islanders' achievement takes extra significance. One of the contributors to the feat is Hiruni Wijeratne, who bagged gold in the women's marathon at her maiden South Asian Games.
Hiruni Wijeratne entered the record books today as the first Sri Lankan woman to win gold in the marathon at the South Asian Games as she crossed the line in 2 hours, 41 minutes and 24 seconds. This year's Games is also Hiruni's first South Asian Games. In the meantime, Sri Lankan athletes won 5 more medals in track events. With that, they surpassed India's gold medal tally of 13 in track events, bagging 15 themselves. The achievement is momentous as it is the first time in 28 years that Sri Lanka managed to overtake neighbouring India on the track at South Asian Games. Given the fact India has a population of over 1 billion while Sri Lanka's is under 22 million, adds to the significance of the achievement. At the end of the day, Sri Lanka is in third place with an overall tally of 158 medals, with 32 gold medals, 50 silvers and 76 bronze medals.
ජෙල් සීන් ඇක්ෂන් ඇන්ටිජර් මවුත් වොෂ් සමගින් එන ක්ලෝස් අප් ජෙල් එක ස්ටෝරි එක ස්ටාර්ට් කරන්න.
There was a new addition to Sri Lanka today in the form of 269 hectares of land reclaimed for the Colombo port city. An official ceremony to mark the occasion was worked off this evening at the port city premises. The project saw a brief delay as the previous government amended the initial agreement with the Chinese company funding the project.
The foundation stone for the Colombo port city was laid on the 17th of September back in 2014 under the patronage of Chinese President Xi Jinping during the tenure of President Mahinda Rajapaksa. Chinese company CHEC Port City Colombo Private Limited came forward to invest $1.5 billion in the project, making it the largest ever FDI project to be implemented in Sri Lanka to date. It is a subsidiary of China Hub Engineering Company Limited and China Communications and Construction Company, which is the parent company of CHEC, is listed in the stock exchanges of Shanghai and Hong Kong. The project company will have the first right of selection of a block of land, followed by the Sri Lankan government selecting another. Following the investment, plans were put in place to reclaim a 233-hectare section between the Colombo port and the Gullface Green. Given the fact the project was funded entirely with money from a Chinese company, the then government agreed to give the ownership of 20 hectares to them on freehold. After coming into power in 2015, the Government of Good Governance temporarily suspended the project, putting work on hold, recompiling the environmental report. They also amended the initial agreement. Under the revised terms, the Government of Good Governance increased the area of land reclamation to 269 hectares. Instead of giving 20 hectares of land on freehold, the Government of Good Governance increased the landmass given to the Chinese company to 116 hectares on a 99-year lease. The breakwater of the Colombo port city is already complete and it stretches for 3.2 kilometers. 65 million cubic meters of sea sand has been used for the land reclamation, and the landmass which can be used for construction purposes is 178 hectares. From that, the Chinese company's lease share is 116 hectares, while Sri Lanka is left with 62 hectares. Both have the chance to lease out the relevant construction work on the reclaimed land. The new landmass, totaling 269 hectares, equaling to 2.6 square kilometers, was officially added to Sri Lanka today, and a ceremony was worked off this evening to mark the new addition under the patronage of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa at the port city premises. A commemorative stamp and a first day cover were also launched to mark the new addition. The occasion was also marked with a fireworks display. The second phase of the Colombo port city is set to get underway tomorrow, with the relevant Chinese company undertaking the infrastructure of the premises, such as roads, power, water and sewage systems. From tomorrow, the land share of the Sri Lankan government, which comes under the Urban Development Authority, can be auctioned for business purposes, while the Chinese company is able to release its 116-hectare section of land at the Colombo port city.
දරුවාගේ අස්ථි ප්‍රතිශක්තිකරණ පද්ධතිය සහ මානසික ක්‍රියා නිසි පරිදි පවත්වාගෙන යාමට දායක වන කැල්සියම්, විටමින් C සහ යකඩ අඩංගු මයිලෝ සමගින් පෝෂණයෙන් ඉදිරියට.
ඕනෑම ප්‍රමාණයක ටීවී සඳහා 50ක් දක්වා වට්ටම්. දිවයින පුරා සොෆ්ට්ලොජික් සහ සොෆ්ට්ලොජික් මැක්ස් ප්‍රදර්ශනාගාරවලින්.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs today released a statement following UK's Westminster Court imposing a fine of over £2,000 on Brigadier Priyanka Fernando for making a gesture at protesting LTT sympathisers last year. It said that the government of Sri Lanka continues to maintain that Brigadier Fernando, as a diplomat who was attached to the Sri Lankan High Commission in London, is entitled to diplomatic immunity as per Article 31 of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations of 1961. The statement added, the sequence of events, the private prosecution, failure to uphold Brigadier Fernando's diplomatic immunities, the timing of the delivery of the judgment on the eve of the UK elections, the alleged unruly and intimidatory behaviour of the supporters of the prosecution during court hearings, who were also carrying LTT flags during these hearings, the alleged leaking of privileged information submitted in court by the defence to the public domain by the private prosecution, makes abundantly clear that this is a politically motivated action. The incident in question occurred on the day of Sri Lanka's independence last year, when a group of LTT sympathisers staged a protest demonstration in front of the Sri Lankan High Commission in London. The Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjith, appeared before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry probing Easter Sunday attacks today for a second day to follow up on the evidence he had presented yesterday. After appearing before the Commission, the Archbishop told media that he holds faith that the Commission will assist in delivering justice. The proceedings of the Commission were in camera today as well.
Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjith, arrived at the Presidential Commission of Inquiry probing the Easter Sunday attacks today to follow up on his testimony yesterday and to present more evidence on the period leading up to the April 21st attacks and the government's handling of the aftermath of the massacre. The Cardinal testified before the Commission for around 2.5 hours.
නෑ මුකුත් ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෑ අපි අපේ සාක්ෂිය ඉදිරිපත් කරලා අපිට කියන්න තියෙන දේවල් අපි කොමිෂන් සභාවේ සභාපතිතුමා සහ අනිකුත් අය සමග අපේ දන්න කරුණු ටික බෙදාගත්තා. එච්චරයි. ඒ ඔක්කොම දේවල් දැන් අපි කිව්වට පස්සේ කොමිෂන් සභාව අනිත් සියලු දෙනාගෙන්ම ප්‍රශ්න කරලා කරුණු හොයලා බලලා ඉවරලා වාර්තාවක් ඉදිරිපත් කරා. ඉතින් ඒ වාර්තාව එනතුරු අපි මේ ගැන මොකුත් කියන්නේ නැහැ ඊට වඩා.
රාජ්‍ය සම්බන්ධයෙන් නෛතික පියවර අරන් තියෙනවා. නමුත් දේශපාලන नायකයන් සම්බන්ධයෙන් කිසිම නෛතික පියවරක් අරන් නැහැ.
ඒ ඔක්කොම අපි බාර දෙමු කොමිෂන් සභාවේ නිගමන වලට සහ ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ සොයා ගැනීම අනුව ඒගොල්ලන්ට නිර්දේශ කරાવી. නිර්දේශ කරපු දේවල් රජය කවුරු හරි කරાવી ඒ කරන්න තියෙන දේවල් අපි ඒක බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. එච්චරයි.
පසුගිය රජයේ වගකීතු ඇමතිවරයෙක් කියලා තිබ්බා එතුමාගේ පියාණන් කිව්වා කියලා මේ පූජාවට යන්න එපා නෙවෙයි කියලා. ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් කිසිම කොමිසමක අධ්‍යයනයකටවත් ලක්ුනේ නැහැ.
ඒක ඉතින් ඒ ඇමතිතුමා කියපු වචනයක් මිසක් මම කියපු දෙයක් නෙමෙයිනේ. ඉතින්
ඇමතිවරයා ඔබ වහන්සේ දැනුවත් කළා තිබෙන්නේ නැද්ද ඒ පිළිබඳව?
මම දැනගෙන හිටියේ නෑ මේවා ගැන කොහොමදවත්. ඒකයි යථාර්ථය. හරිද?
මේ කොමිසම් සම්බන්ධ විශ්වාසයක් තියෙනවද?
ඔව් මම විශ්වාස කරනවා කොමිෂන් සභාව අවංකයි. ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ වැඩ කටයුතු හොඳින් කරાવી කියලා මම විශ්වාස කරනවා.
ඔබ වහන්සේ මේ ප්‍රහාරය සම්බන්ධයෙන් ඉන්දියානු මහකොමසාරිස්වරයා දැනුම් දීමක් කරාද? ප්‍රහාරයෙන් පස්සේ ඔබතුමා හම්බෙච්ච වෙලාවේ මෙහෙම තිබුණා.
ඒ පිළිබඳව පූර්ව දැනුම් දීමක් දීලා තියෙන බව මම දැනගත්තා. එච්චරයි.
තමයි ජනාධිපතිතුමාත් ඔබ වහන්සේ හම්බුණා. එතුමාගේ මතය කොහොමද?
එතුමා කිව්වනේ මේ කොමිෂන් සභාවේ එතුමා අනුමත කරනවා කියලා. ඉතින් අනිත් එක අපි කැමති වුණේ නැහැ අපේ පැත්තෙන් කව හරි ඒකට යෝජනා කරන්න. එතකොට ඒක පක්ෂග්‍රාහී යන ලේබලේ ඇලවෙන නිසා අපි කිව්වා හොඳයි දැන් මේ පත් කරලා තියෙන අය ස්වාධීනයි. ඒ අය කෙරෙහි අපි විශ්වාස කරලා අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා සාධාරණය පිළිබඳව. හොඳයි අපි යන්න.
Director General of the Agricultural Department, Dr. W.M.W. Weerakorn, called for capacities of agri institutions in the country to be broadened so it will in turn help serve the smallholders better, and that the total agricultural value chain must be revisited in a backdrop where value-added products are in demand. His views came during an event organized by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations in celebration of 40 years of endurance in Sri Lanka recently. Also addressing the event, FAO representative to Sri Lanka, Zubing Son, cautioned that if Sri Lanka's population is expected to grow by 2.4 million people by 2050, there has to be a plan in place on how to feed the growing population.
We highly commend the Sri Lanka government for contributing to the global vision to create a world free from hunger and malnutrition. The problem of hunger cannot be tackled without taking into account the fact that very soon, by 2050, there will be 9.7 billion inhabitants of this planet. In Sri Lanka, the population is expected to grow by 2.4 million people by 2050. The economy in Sri Lanka is transitioning from a predominantly rural-based economy towards a more urbanized economy. We must therefore plan how we are going to feed a growing population, raising its nutrition level, and doing so in a responsible way through promoting the conservation and the sustainable use of natural resources and sustaining territorial and marine ecosystem services functions. Time has now come to apply ecosystem-specific latest technologies to reap the full potential of the different ecosystems while optimizing resource use. For that, FAO has come forward in developing our tanks-based agro-ecosystems. We need to improve the capacities of agriculture institutions in the country with improved knowledge and improved know-how, especially in the Department of Agriculture, to better serve the smallholders of the country to continue their livelihood in a sustainable and resilient manner. There is a need to fulfill these gaps in research and development and the inadequacies in our extension programs. We also need to address the other challenges in the agriculture sector, such as the less availability of agricultural labor due to the migration of youth to the cities, lower level of mechanization, need to reduce the post-harvest losses, especially the fruit and vegetables, which is over 40% right now. Also to align farmers with market-oriented production systems. Sri Lanka was one of the first countries in the world to obtain technical assistance from the FAO and the International Telecommunication Union to develop the National E-Agricultural Strategy in 2016. The ICT platforms that are being developed by FAO for data collection, fertilizer usage, agricultural weather forecast, and water availability in the irrigation tanks will help us to engage in planned agriculture to avoid overproduction and avoid marketing issues. There's a need for value-added products. Total agricultural value chain must be revisited and reoriented to have the vibrant agricultural systems in this country. We realize the need to reorient agricultural priorities to focus more on nutritional quality and diversity and to meet the nutritional needs of the growing population.
From planned agriculture to environmental and social governance. We'll talk about all that when we return after this short break. Welcome back. We take you to business news. Colombo Stock Exchange Chairman Ray AdaDerana is happy to see environmental, social and governance issues being addressed in annual reports of companies as it plays a key role in influencing investment decisions. His thoughts came during a market opening ceremony recently to mark the 2-year collaboration between the CSE and the Global Reporting Initiative. Also speaking here, Australian High Commissioner in Sri Lanka, David Hawley, said that through sustainability reporting, Sri Lanka could set an example to the rest of the world as a solution at the time the world is having to tackle what he termed wicked problems.
A market opening ceremony was organised recently to mark 2 years of collaboration between the Colombo Stock Exchange and the Global Reporting Initiative.
The Colombo Stock Exchange and GRI embarked on a journey in 2018 to foster sustainability reporting amongst our listed companies and educate them on the importance of integrating environmental, social and governance-related disclosures within a company's annual publication. We have seen the advancement of a company's annual report from its hitherto prime focus of disseminating financial data to providing a holistic view of a company and its performance, encompassing both qualitative and quantitative data. Environmental, social, and governance issues are now addressed in a company's annual report, as these aspects are among the factors that influence investment decisions of institutional and retail investors. Sustainable investing has continued to gain momentum among financial market participants, and environmental, social, and governance factors are vital determinants of investment decisions. As this requirement comes into fore, it is vital that listed entities take steps to effectively measure and communicate ESG performance and its impact to its stakeholders. As a member of the United Nations Sustainable Stock Exchange Initiative, the CSE has actively propagates its commitment to promote, to increase and improve ESG disclosure and performance among listed firms.
Business can be good for the environment. And I think with sustainability reporting that GRI is a world leader in, it can show not only shareholders but the broader community as to what the company is doing. This helps with its investment, it helps with its broader public relations, but more importantly, it puts it on the global map that companies here in Sri Lanka can show and demonstrate to the world at a time when issues of climate and other wicked problems, ones that we need to be addressing. Sri Lanka is part of the solution.
In some international business news, US President Donald Trump today called for World Bank to stop loaning money to China a day after the international financial institution adopted a lending plan to Beijing over Washington's objections. Now, the World Bank yesterday adopted a plan to aid China with low-interest loans of $1 to $1.5 billion annually through June 2025. The plan calls for lending to gradually decline from the previous 5-year average of $1.8 billion. Taking to Twitter in response to the latest development, Trump said China has plenty of money and if they don't, they will create it. His tweet read, quote, "Why is the World Bank loaning money to China? Can this be possible? Stop," unquote. The World Bank loaned China $1.3 billion in the fiscal year 2019, which ended on June 30th, a decrease from around $2.4 billion in the 2017 fiscal year. But the fall in the World Bank's loans to China is not swift enough for the Trump administration, which has argued that Beijing is too wealthy for international aid. Lebanon appealed to more friendly states today to help it import essential goods as the country wrestles with an acute economic crisis and hard currency shortages. Former Prime Minister Saad Hariri wrote to the leaders of Germany, Britain and Spain today requesting help in securing credit for imports, having made the same appeal yesterday to Saudi Arabia, France, Russia, Turkey, the United States, China and Egypt. Lebanon's economic crisis, the worst since its 1975 to 1990 civil war, has spiraled into a financial crunch since the eruption of protests against the ruling elite in October. The economic crisis is rooted in decades of corruption and waste that have made Lebanon one of the world's most heavily indebted states. Hariri, running a caretaker government, resigned as Prime Minister on the 29th of October, prompted by the protests, which have taken aim at corruption. Do stay with us on First at 9 as we return with more news. Well, Sri Lanka's Caroline Julie ended a wait of over 3 decades, winning the Mrs. World pageant worked off in Las Vegas in the United States last evening. She beat a field of 51 contestants on her way to the crown.
The 2020 Mrs. World pageant was held in Las Vegas in the United States yesterday. A total of 51 competitors took part in an extremely competitive pageant, with Sri Lankan Caroline Julie emerging above the rest and claiming the title. She qualified to the Las Vegas pageant after winning the Mrs. Sri Lanka title. The contestants resided at the West Coast Las Vegas Resort and Casino. While Caroline Julie claimed the title, the first runner-up was from Ireland and the second runner-up was from the US Virgin Islands. A Sri Lankan last celebrated being a Mrs. World in 1984 when Mrs. Rosie Senanaika won the title. Closing the 35-year gap in owning the title, Caroline Julie brought the crown back to the motherland as a 27-year-old mother.
This is Sri Lanka.
I want the judges to know, in my childhood, I have suffered with so many depression and I have tried to kill myself. As Mrs. Sri Lanka, I opened my own campaign called Be You. I teach the children to be yourself no matter what. If I be Mrs. World, I'll be able to continue my Be You campaign to the worldwide to help the children who are suffering from hate and depression. Thank you.
Well, that wraps up tonight's edition of First at 9 on AdaDerana 24. Thank you for joining us tonight. We'll bring you the news same time tomorrow. Until then, take care. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.